It is a tragic part of Atlanta history, a place where prison inmates worked to death. More than 100 years later, the city has purchased the land where the Chattahoochee Brick Company once stood. And tonight, Jerry Carnes reports on today's celebration that will lead to the transformation of the property into a park.
Brick by brick, the city of Atlanta is building a link between the atrocities of the past and hope for the future.
They thought that people were buried on this land.
Gina Billingsley's brothers worked at the Chattahoochee Brick Company in the 1980s when the job was backbreaking and borderline abusive. They told her stories of what happened here more than 100 years ago.
I've known people who came out to this land and just felt uncomfortable up until this day.
The Chattahoochee Brick Company was the foundation of Atlanta's rebuilding after the Civil War. The factory produced more than 200,000 bricks a day using inmate labor.
50 years after slavery was supposed to have been over in America. And we don't know how many people died under those circumstances.
Georgia State University professor Doug Blackman detailed what happened to those inmates in his book, Slavery by Another Name.
They were starved, whipped, they were deprived of medical attention and shelter. And some of them were buried in lost graves on this exact location.
More than a century after the horror, Atlanta is celebrating. At an event to mark the city's purchase of 75 acres here, many gathered to reach out and touch history. The plan is to turn this area into a park, incorporating the Chattahoochee River and the Silver Comet Trail.
And this place will serve as a history lesson taught by the spirits of those who suffered here and died.
Donna Stevens is among those who helped fight off developers so the city could buy this land and preserve it for the memory of those lost.
I want them to understand what it meant for these men, women, and children to basically give up the ultimate prize.
Brick by brick, Atlanta is coming to terms with what happened more than 100 years ago, using this land as a way of moving forward without ever forgetting. In Northwest Atlanta, Jerry Carnes, 11 Alive News.